today, Nifty closed almost close to all-time life highs. Such a day would have been unimaginable 6 months ago when COVID was at its peak. It's a very interesting times because in the entire last 6 months, we have seen heights of euphoria, depths of despair, and again, as Diwali looms in another 2 weeks, people are becoming much more optimistic. On the international front, we have seen a T20 kind of finish in the US elections, and people are not clear whether this will spark another risk on trade all over the world. But there's one sector which has done quite well from the beginning of the pandemic, that is the pharma sector. The pharma index is up almost 30% compared to the broader markets. Today, I'm pleased to welcome our guest speaker, Mr. Vineet Samre, who is the head of equities in DSP AMC. He is not only an expert on the markets, but also a big expert in small cap, mid cap, and pharma stocks. And he has years of experience in tracking Indian markets. He's a chartered accountant by qualification. And without wasting much time, let me straight away ask him my first question. How does he read the overall rally? Because 6 months ago, we thought the world is coming to end. Now it looks as if the world is going to make a new high. So what is the entire thing which is happening from depths of despair to heights of euphoria? How does one actually analyze and understand these markets?
Hi Venkat, good evening, and it's a pleasure being here. Good evening to all. Hope everyone is safe and sound. So I think you touched upon a very important point, Venkat, and I don't think anyone would have ever imagined or predicted that once we had got hit with the pandemic, that we will see such a big and a very swift rally in a way. So I would say that a large part of it can be really linked to the kind of liquidity which was thrown out by the global banks, global economies, both in terms of monetary and fiscal support. I think most of the economies have come out clearly and said that we will do whatever it takes to sort of support the economy come back. And even before we could really see signs of economy coming back, I think it's the liquidity which drove much of the rally initially, and which is where that some amount of concern or some amount of worry what we had was whether the economy will start supporting the market moves or no. So now I think clearly from that stage we have come up to a very different stage altogether. Having really looked at the way the companies have performed in this pretty tough phase, I would say that companies have lived up to the expectation. Many companies have sort of done a good job of rationalizing at their cost and sort of coming back in terms of the profitability as well. So I would say large part of the rally initially was more linked to the liquidity in the system, both globally, and which helped most of the markets. And then I think what one eventually would need is a fundamental support coming out from the companies, which now is sort of coming back. So I would say from a phase where initially the market was looking like moving up very fast without a fundamental support, now I would say there is some amount of that fundamental drift which has come back. And for the markets to sustain the momentum, I would say beyond liquidity, it will be more driven by the continuity of the business momentum, which one will have to keep a very close watch on. Otherwise, there could be disappointments along the way, is my thought.
Coming to the, how does an investor actually approach this issue? Are we going through a period of consolidation where the defensives, especially FMCG and pharma, will do well, or it's a broad-based rally in the banks again, then autos and engineering and all the so-called cement, and this kind of rally will again take place?
I think clearly we are actually right now witnessing sector rotation, and that's more to do with the catching up of some sorts in a way, where initially the rally was more linked to the sectors which were actually getting benefited or being more resilient during the pandemic. So let's say if it has to do with healthcare, IT, some of the consumer names, I think those were the ones which sort of performed relatively much better. And wherever I think the investors had a bit of a concern around the fact that some of these sectors may really look to be under stress for a long period, then those sectors were not performing. And now, as some of the results are showing up for the banking segment, that the problem doesn't seem to be as severe as what it was earlier thought to be. I think these sectors are coming back. So to me, I think the outlook on the segment should be more driven by which segments are likely to do well in the next 1 or 2 years. And my view will go again to support the sectors like IT. I see there's a very positive trend which has got changed because of COVID. Most companies now have got on to this idea of coming up in terms of their digitization curve, or call it the cloud migration. And there is huge amount of work which will follow through once this transition takes place. So I would say that this looks more like a sustainable story. Beyond that, my sense is that the healthcare sector has come out of slumber in a way, which the sector was ailing for the last 3 to 4 years, and we'll discuss that in detail. I see a sense of semblance sort of coming up there in terms of the growth prospects. So that segment again, I would sort of remain positive on. And beyond that, I think some of the cyclicals, I would still say that most sectors were sort of under a bit of a low cycle. If you if you can imagine, auto sector was in the deepest. Better from
I think we have seen.
Hello.
Hello, Vineet, we lost you. We lost you at auto.
So what I was saying is that auto, from a last sort of 10-year, the worst phase in their cycle, I would imagine that things are again favoring them. Just that we have to keep a view on is the job losses going to impact. But my sense is that things should be better for the auto sector, and even cement for that matter. We have started seeing demand sort of coming back for the real estate sector. Government is trying to at least keep up some of the important capex which they want to continue and not stop there, because they also understand that it's a big responsibility on them to sort of push growth. They've not been able to back up as much stimulus as is required. So I think a better way to think about the overall growth there would be to look at the cement sector. So I would say that one will have to keep looking at the segments which would sort of continue to see growth in the foreseeable future, and which is where some of these sectors sort of stack up in my view.
Coming to pharma, I think you have been a long-term student or analyst or observer of the pharma sector, and this is one sector which is quite, I would say, a bit tricky for the investor to understand. This is one sector which I've been trying to understand, but as an analyst, I've actually failed. So it will be very nice to get your perspective on the sector. So let me start with the first big picture question. The question I have is that whether this sector is in for good time for the next 3-4 years, because as you said in the opening remark, this sector has been underperforming for some time in the past. And plus the sector had a lot of problems. There's a very nice book on Ranbaxy called Bottle of Lies, and that led to the report on the investigations done by FDA on Indian companies. So most people thought that Indian companies, they are having problems, but somehow we seem to have overcome that. So I just want to understand the big picture. Is that the sector underperformed, now is going to catch up, or is that driven by earnings growth and good times? What exactly is the driver?
Yeah. So let me spend a few minutes here, because as you said, I've been the person who who was covering the pharma sector earlier. So as a caveat, let me also tell you I have some bias for this sector. I generally am positive on this sector, and I'll tell you the reasons for the same. So, if you look at the sector dynamics generally, it is more akin to an FMCG sort of a category, I would say. The demand is more certain here. We all understand that the requirement of medicines is only going to increase. The structure of different countries is different, but the demand curve is always going to be there. We have aging population in India. We have issues relating to penetration, which is going to help, issues relating to under insurance, which is going to help. So we have all the broader matrix which ideally is suited for the healthcare sector to look at growth. Just that one big important risk which everyone has to keep in mind is the regulatory risk. Now, regulatory risk is something which is there across all the countries. It has bearing on one country regulation can have bearing on the other country where there are trade relationship which is there. And for India, the biggest advantage the Indian companies really have is our cost matrix, which is one of the biggest advantage, which even today China sort of has not able to match up to. They are not been able to come up in in terms of being formulators for the drug. Formulators, when I say formulation, it is the final product as far as the pharmaceutical is concerned. And also the chemistry skills. When I say chemistry skills, our ability to understand the science behind these products, to reverse engineer and come up with a let's say similar product what an innovator has launched in the US market, makes our country really have great advantages in some form or fashion. So what does that mean? So if we look at in terms of the market opportunity, India is a high cash generating, high ROC market for the Indian companies, and one of the largest market, which is US, there our relevance is very high. We are one of the important partners there in terms of ability to supply drugs at a cheap cost, and where globally countries are looking to reduce cost. Now China is coming up in a big way. China, by the way, just about 15 or 17% of their market is served by their own companies which are domiciled from China. Almost 80% is all sort of supplied by the MNCs, and hence we probably have a big opportunity out there which is opening up for the generics market. So I would say, in a way, this is a this is a category which is sort of growing. India has advantage both for the domestic and the international geography, but at the same time, what needs to be kept in mind is the regulation. Now, we were sort of growing at a steady pace over the last many years, and since 2014 or 15, we started getting impacted because of two important changes which took place. One, US became very strict in terms of their plant inspection and plant approvals. India, by the way, is the second highest. It has the second highest US FDA approved plant outside of US. So that's a big feat which we enjoy, but that also had its own cost. When US came up with a very stringent standard, it also meant that it led to either import alert or warning letters for many of the facilities which we have, and that impacted not only the US business but some countries which also sort of followed the US FDA matrix. They also got impacted. At the same time, in India, we had this new NLEM list, which is the essential medicines list, which came about and which brought down the profitability of the Indian players for the medicines which came under that. So I would say it was the regulation which caused a sort of a slowdown in the sector. But otherwise, structurally, if you ask me, the sector dynamics generally are positive for growth. And now what is happening for the last 2 years, and I will give some data points as well, is the fact that so there was one more problem which I missed. In the US, the buyers of the generic products, they got consolidated, and we were sellers to them. So they actually achieved a much higher bargaining power, and they sought lower prices for the generic products, which actually impacted the profitability of Indian companies. Now, as things stand today, what has happened to the US market? We have seen gradual, the companies have gone through the learning curve. Some of the plants have come out from their problems. COVID has to some extent helped as well. And the other thing is that the generic, the price declines which we had seen in the generic markets, those have also got abated a bit. And the reason for that is many companies chose to stop supplying the drugs because they didn't feel it was profitable to supply at those prices. And that led to shortages in the US market. So today US actually is facing shortages on many drugs. So I would say to some extent the kind of pressure which we were facing has got abated. Indian markets also has got consolidated, and from the low growth phase we have come up to, let's say, 8 to 10% kind of a growth regime, where 4% is driven by the volumes, 4% is driven by the realization, and 2% coming out from the new product introduction. So I would say, if I were to just think about the last 5-year data, of the BSE 200 companies, the healthcare pack, the profit just grew about 2 or 3% in the last 5 years. But if I see the last 2 years trend from FY 18, 19, 20, the profits have grown by 14%. So there is definitely a fundamental shift which has probably taken place. And I would say that excluding any further big regulatory changes which can potentially always that risk is always there, I would say the sector dynamics are looking good, and companies are poised for a stable growth in the foreseeable future.
So is this the current rally in the pharma sector a catch up, because 3-4 years ago it was not doing well, and you're saying is that plus the fundamentals are changing. So if you invest in this sector for next 3 years, you should beat the Nifty returns. Is it a good hypothesis?
So let me try to put it this way, that definitely we anticipate that the companies probably can grow their earnings at a CAGR of around 14 to 15%, given the fact that most of the companies which had also filed for complex generics in the US market, those opportunities will also open up now. I can talk about the market dynamics there if you wish to understand those. But by and large, that type of growth number, again, my sense is that it is possible that if we go by the overall Nifty earnings or Sensex earnings, it has been on a low single-digit growth curve. So if the healthcare profits keep outgrowing the overall corporate growth, then it is possible that the next few years the healthcare as a sector may continue to outperform the overall Nifty growth. Is the thought which currently I have.
So if you have a say a 2-3 year perspective, then healthcare should be definitely one sector you should be exposed to.
So see, yeah, again, going by the logic that versus any other themes, healthcare is more stable as a theme. The growth metrics are better, and now we are sort of come out of the slower phase. So it looks good. Don't hold me to a specific 2-3 years perspective. My general investment prognosis has been that one has to look at investing with a slightly longer term view, because there are a lot of these dynamics which one can't always put a finger on. So if the regulations were to hit on the end of the second or third year, then again you may see some pressure. But overall, I would agree that investors can look at the healthcare sector as more secular growth. And I will also touch upon some of the international opportunities which we have tried to capture through healthcare, and also brought in some amount of non-correlation with the overall healthcare market.
No, I have a question on that later, but I have included that international healthcare stocks also, which will come later. But my question is very simple. So two questions to this question. One is, when you say 2-3 years, so basically 5 years, you're saying that equity investors should be holding to a sector for 5 years, some time frame, because investors are there in the audience, they would like to know. And second question I have, with is linked to that, is that in India, any company which shows earnings growth is priced to perfection. If you're showing 20% earnings growth, you get 60 times multiple. If you show 25% earnings growth, you get 100 multiple, because we have seen like that. So is pharma priced properly, or it's like it's gone priced to perfection? So there are two aspects to my question.
Yeah, so I think it has to also do with the sentiments, by the way, because as I said, I am a firm believer of pharma, and in fact, not only the healthcare fund, but in our other funds, if you see during the phase 2015 onwards, we still continue to hold on to a lot of companies, and we added, in fact, to many companies. So it is now only that, with the some amount of benefit of improving outlook, and also the COVID actually accelerated some bit of the benefits to this company, which also I can touch upon. But we have seen a massive outperformance. Now, where are we on the valuation curve today, if we have to understand it from a very broader perspective? So see, at the highs, the healthcare sector was trading at a 80 to 90% premium to the Sensex, let's say. And at the lows, it had come down to almost equal to what the Sensex was. There was, I think, around 2 or 3% premium to the Sensex at the lows in 2018. And today, after this rally, so the average has been 40% premium to the Sensex. Today, I think we are somewhere closer to 25 to 30% premium to the Sensex in terms of the valuations. So we are still slightly below the long-term averages in terms of the valuations, while the sector has seen a benefit in terms of the price rally, which has been massive. So first, disclaimer I want to put is that investors should not look at last 1 year return and then come. But I'm saying the valuations are still reasonable. The outlook for the sector is still good. So investors thinking from that perspective to gain from the overall healthcare space likely to do well. I think the sector still has good outlook for the next 4 to 5 years is what I can say.
Okay, fair enough. You talked about your international stocks. Your fund includes international healthcare stocks also. So what's the rationale behind it? And do you plan to expand your international stocks? I think that was a point you wanted to talk about. So let me ask you this question right now.
Yeah, so I think, see, it was, one very important decision we took at the point of launching the fund, that there were two things which crossed our minds. One, so first of all, our healthcare fund is just not pure pharmaceutical oriented fund. It looks at categories beyond pure pharma companies. So it looks at healthcare services like hospitals, diagnostic labs, healthcare insurance companies. And then we said that are there any areas which we are not serving today, or we are not able to capture? And which is possible to capture internationally. So one big scope was in the medical device businesses. And if you see medical devices, you don't have any successful company out here. And in US, these companies have some of the companies have done really well. Many of them are into cutting edge technology, and as we see, with the procedures becoming more complex, and the hospitals wanting to bring down the hardship to the patients, the technology is playing an important role as far as the medical devices are concerned. So from that perspective, we said while the opportunities is wide open, we can invest into international generic companies also, innovator also, but we want us to have more deeper skill set to understand the specialty domain, the innovation domain. If once we get to understand that domain well, we will not shy away from investing into the innovation as well, because in India, again, you lack innovation based investments out here. So I think the first easier option was to look at the medical devices technology companies, and which is what we have done. So that's number one. We are providing a slightly better diversification to the investors out here. Number two, we also looked at the long-term correlation with the Indian healthcare sector. Now, the data suggests that the correlation factor is 0.12 between the medical device mix and the healthcare index out here. So which also means that when let's say our companies for some reason sees some level of drawdowns, it is possible that those companies support us in terms of the outlook there. So it also gives some amount of low correlation in terms of the mix. And I think these were the two important metrics which focused us to look at these companies. And the way we are targeting these companies are, clearly we are, again, our broader framework of looking at companies, especially in the international markets, are going to be ones where there are absolutely no leverage. They have proven track record, balance sheet is clean, and whatever through some scuttlebutts, we are able to understand whether the products are doing well, because some of these medical devices are also used by the Indian hospitals out there, so we can get some amount of validations from there. So I think that's what we are looking at when we are looking at the international companies. We are in a way providing opportunities for our investors to participate in that growth as well. Let me also add here, Venkat, today. So just one point I wanted to make. So we have we made a buffer to actually go up to 25% as far as the international investments is concerned. Today we are at 10%. We gradually would like to build our set of investments there. As we start understanding them deep enough, we'll keep adding more to the international companies. Is the another thought which I wanted to share.
Fair enough. We have a question from one of our panelists. So he says that he's receiving substantial lump sum amount in his retirement. He wants to invest in the PhD sector, which is pharma, healthcare and diagnostic, and the IT sector. So would you advise lump sum investment or staggered investment over the next 6 to 12 months? So before you answer this question, I just want to put one caveat. We are assuming that the money which you are receiving, you have done your asset allocation, you have kept some money in debt. So you are now trying to get an answer to the question which you want to invest in equities. With this disclaimer, although I'm a big fan of SIP and staggered investments over the next 6 to 12 months, we have an expert beneath, so I'll ask him this question.
I don't think any expert will always have the most accurate answer to such type of questions, and neither do I have the best answer. But I would say that again, so first of all, overall, my comfort has been always to stagger the investment and not go lump sum, because timing is something which nobody has any handle on. That's number one. Number two, anyways, healthcare has really come out from a very massive, remarkable up move, so almost 70% in the last 1 year. So I would say that having looking to invest big amount after seeing such a big rally, I would say it's better to stagger your investment over the next 2 or 3 months rather than looking at lump sum. But both the categories, if you ask me, I would definitely feel that investor can look at these two segments, the IT and the healthcare overall.
Thank you. Now, the other question somebody has is that I know that you can't talk about individual stocks, but one of our panelists wants to get your idea on mid-cap pharma stocks. So,
see, again, let me say this, that while our fund had a slightly higher composition of mid-caps and small caps to start with, we have right now reduced some amount of that, because we saw remarkable change in the prices there, and these stocks have given more than anticipated returns, and they are sort of now trading at the higher range. So we have trimmed a bit and we've added more of the large cap. But let me tell you, we ideally would not like to bucket it that way. We try to see where the opportunities are. And qualitatively, are we investing into companies with the broad filters, which is good clean management, ROE, ROCs which are superior in nature, cash flow generation, and within that, if you believe that cyclically or because of some opportunities, it is such that some companies maybe in the mid cap or small cap space are likely to do well, we won't mind adding that. So I would say the opportunities are present both across the mid caps, small caps, and even the large caps. And today we are well balanced. We have, including our international exposure, we have about 50% exposure to the large cap and roughly the balance 40-45% to the mid and small caps. So I think it's an equal balance today, if you ask me personally.
Okay, coming to this question about China, you said about China. If you talk to any of the Indian pharmaceutical company, they import a lot of intermediates from China, and so so how do you think the entire China angle will be played? So the government of India is giving production-linked incentives so that we can improve our own API manufacturing capacity in India. So will there be a big opportunity in this entire contract manufacturing or the space?
So before that, for the advantage of the investors, API is basically the raw material just before the final product is made, and before API is the intermediates, which is the basic chemicals, which is actually mixed, and the composition finally is used to make the APIs. And by and large, our dependence on China for the basic intermediate, or for the for most countries who are into manufacturing of APIs, China remains an important source. But what is also happening, given the challenges which we have been facing, the geopolitical tensions, the relationship with the China, some of the companies are moving up the curve in terms of trying to become as independent in terms of their ability to get materials from their own source other than China. So in a way, that is making the companies more self-sufficient, is what I can say. Not all companies are doing carrying out those efforts, but many companies are carrying out those efforts. Number two, let's say a few years back, API was almost like a bad word, because let me tell you, API is a business where you are at the mercy of the formulators. They will not allow you to price your product to the levels what you want. Working capital requirements are pretty high, because you have to keep the high inventory, your receivables are slightly longer. So I think the capital investment requirement is also pretty high. So actually it was a bad word, and just one company really did very well out there. We all know from Hyderabad, the largest API manufacturing company. That was one company which steadily kept performing very well, and it actually showed that there was a great competitive advantage in terms of selecting right molecules and being large in those. But otherwise, I would say API had gone through its own cycles, ups and downs. And now, after the COVID crisis, what happened is that, pharma, by the way, is a very fragmented industry. So formulation is sitting in one country, API is in one country, intermediate is in one country. So the supply chain becomes very important and relevant aspect. And because of the COVID, most of the formulators and the API manufacturers feared that they may not get adequate supplies as per the requirement, and which actually led to a lot of demand for the APIs from wherever possible and for whatever prices you want to have, which actually led to most of our companies, even the small ones, gaining significantly, not only in terms of demand but also in terms of pricing, which showed up in terms of the profitability. Now I would say that is this type of profitability sustainable? I would not call for that. I would say there would be reversion to the profitability there. Our companies definitely, as I said, we have advantages. Some companies will gain in this field as well. Not all of them, I would say, will be successful. It's not a basket approach to look at. It's very company specific. Government is definitely supporting in terms of the PLI incentives and all of that. So surely we'll have some companies sustaining the benefit what they have enjoyed for long. And but one needs to be selective. And what gains we saw, I would say that we may definitely see some amount of reversion taking place to those gains over the next 2 or 3 quarters.
Another question from one of our participants: what's your view on IPO of Gland Pharma?
I would like to avoid company specific questions, but again, so I was touching upon the specialty generics in the US market. Now, broadly, if you have to dissect the US generics market, India has captured the total generics market, roughly 50% is the oral generics and 50% is non-orals, which I can call specialty, so injectables and all of that. Now, of the 50%, we Indian companies roughly have about 20 or 25% market share. So it's a huge market share what our companies enjoy. And of this balance, we have hardly scaled up. Very few companies have scaled up in the specialty injectables market. But now, the last 5 years, whatever cash flows our companies generated from the Indian businesses, they were investing into developing complex generics. And I would say there are 3 or 4 companies which have actually come up the curve quite well as far as the specialty generics is concerned, including our Gland Pharma in the injectable space out there. And I think the opportunity is there for them to capture, and which is what I was trying to hint at, that we still have decent opportunity to capture, but it's meant for those who have made investment in the last 5 years, and those investments are going to sort of pay off over the next few years.
See, DIIs have been equal weight on the sector for a long time. FIIs were underweight. Now FII buying has started. So you think this is a trend which will continue, especially for the pharma sector, and that will again drive the re-rating of the sector, or there's limits to it because most of the MNC stocks, which are the darling of the stock markets, are already at 51, 75%, whatever that regulatory cap is.
See, again, these are very difficult questions to answer, Venkat, but I would say money will chase the returns, and broadly, be it Indian money, foreign money, the color of the money is the same. So I think as companies show promise and visibility improves for growth, and the regulatory hangover is little less, because see, regulations is something which nobody has a handle on. I would say the money will keep chasing the assets which gives them higher return per risk which they are assuming. So from that perspective, my view on the sector remains positive. Now, whether FI wants to reduce their underweight position and come up in a big way, will have to be seen, but most companies are showcasing that promise today.
See, if you look at India as a country and the fact that healthcare spend will increase, weightage of healthcare sector in the overall Nifty is quite low. So because the financials have the maximum weight, unless now because of Reliance, maybe things are undergoing a change, but this was what is happening. So you think the sector will get an increased weightage so that passive buying also takes place?
Yeah, I would imagine that, Venkat, at this point, because I believe that the sector has a potential to outgrow the broader index. And in the last 10 years, if you see, mostly adjustments to the, the sector weightages have been in sync with the profitability growth. So, the private banks have grown the profits and they have seen higher weightages. PSU banks have lost. Similarly, consumption has grown. Auto, because of this fall, again, their weightages have come off in line with the profitability. So I would say that eventually over longer term, it's the profit pool which matters. And I see the profit pool increasing in the sector and likely outgrowing the overall market. And hence, there's a fair chance that their weightages in the index may sort of go up.
The Indian pharmaceutical companies, not the MNCs, have always been accused of not doing enough R&D. You think this trend will change, especially now that profit pool increases and, as you said, we have to go up the value chain and try to compete in the more developed market?
You are saying the MNC companies which are operating in India or the Indian companies?
Indian MNC. So anyway, they have a whatever reciprocal effect of their parents, Indian companies.
So see, actually, where we have gained, Venkat, is really the R&D in the generics and somewhere in the specialty generics. We have tried doing so pure innovation. We have still not seen any success. Let's say the largest company today is they have spent quite a lot in terms of scaling up their specialty basket. But I would say we don't have enough success stories to talk about as far as the innovations is concerned. And but has the investment happened? Maybe let's say 1 or 2 companies are genuinely thinking about investment. Uh, One of the top companies have also seen launch in the respiratory category in the specialty basket. But I would say that the type of innovation which takes place in the international market, are we, can we compare ourselves to that? We would not be able to, even if some of our one or two companies, eventually become successful. Uh, it, uh, I mean, it will not be to a proportion what we have seen happening internationally. Their spends are much more, their basket is much wider, and they have a big drive to grow the innovations altogether. But I mean, that will be something which we may not be a country which will be known for. One or two companies may come out, but not in a big way.
Interesting. So now coming to the next question, impact of Biden. He's next president of America, most likely, with all disclaimers. And he has his own Obamacare and other plans. So there'll be pricing pressure on Indian pharmaceutical companies, or no impact.
So I would say, so I think these, election outcomes are always feared, but end of the day, these do not, I mean, they don't have everlasting impact overall. What really matters is, broadly what US wants to do is that they want to bring down the overall healthcare cost. And there, the bigger problem is the innovator products, which are very pricey. So, you've seen many innovation product when, they come out of the their overall period of exclusive period, their sales actually drops by more than 95%. So we can understand the amount of high prices which these companies have. So for them, the idea is to more look at to how to control the prices of some of the innovation products. And in fact, generics is something which they are inviting, because generics is something that is bringing down their healthcare cost overall, and which is where our Indian companies are well suited, is what I can say. And the more we keep being more cost efficient and ability to supply at lower cost and ability to understand the chemistry skills, I think the opportunities will be there. And anyways, with Biden coming in, and you have the Senate still controlled by the Republicans, I don't think there will be bigger bigger changes will require support from both the parties, is what I can say. So it will not be an easy change.
Interesting question about what is your view? You have been renowned for your small cap, mid cap stock picking idea abilities. Fund has done very well. You are one of the few funds to stop accepting money in the small cap, mid cap space also. So what is your view on right now? I know that you're a fan of fact that you're accepting money in a small cap, mid cap fund, but do you think it's a time to increase weightage towards those two stock sector?
So I see that so overall from the valuations perspective, the small caps are still at a reasonable valuation zone, is what I can say, looking at the companies which I own the portfolio. Beyond that, I would imagine that most companies, which we own, we have reasons to believe that their ability to keep growing at 15-16% for the next few years is possible. And with that in mind, I believe that as these companies keep growing, the opportunities within the sector is there. Please, for all the investors, understand that we are in the last 7 or 8 years, we have not seen growth. We have been in a low cycle of earnings growth, and we keep hoping for the normalization. We keep hoping for growth picking up, and over the next 3-4 years, let's say, once the growth comes back up, the kind of leverage it actually has on the companies, especially the mid and small cap, coming out from a low economic growth environment to a decent growth environment. I think that itself can be a good catch-up trade in terms of the presence in the right set of mid and small cap companies. So we have actually put in a lot of our filters to weed out businesses or companies which potentially can lead to accidents. and we try to select companies which we believe they have the ability and potential to outgrow the market while keeping the balance sheet healthy, while keeping the other aspects sound, the ROC and the other factors. So I would say that I see a lot of opportunities for investors who have willingness and patience to hold for long term. Let me tell you, in case of small caps and mid caps, there are many times where we are holding on to companies for 4 years, 5 years, and the company does nothing, and 6th year suddenly it will compensate for all the patience which we have shown. And by the way, our turnover ratios are the lowest, so our holding power is one of the highest. So I have always believed that beyond stock selection, it is the holding power which will give you that additional alpha over the market, and which may also mean that during the phase where the companies are not performing, our fund may go through some bit of underperformance, but we are not worried. We don't get bothered about that. Many times we add more when the things are not great. So I would say that for investors, definitely with a lot of patience and appetite for such type of investment, it makes a lot of sense to be part of the small and mid cap journey.
And any views on when on the COVID vaccine? Is it on the cards, or it's like anybody's guess?
Actually, so there are today I think 130 or 140 vaccine candidates which are at different places. People are working on it, and we keep hearing.
What's up university which says that vaccine already there in China?
I don't know what China has done. But again, it's anybody's guess. I would imagine that let's say closer to mid of next year is somewhere one should think about vaccine really coming out, because it's very important that the safety data comes out properly and accurately, which gives confidence to people that the vaccine which we are going to be administered is not going to have major side effect. And frankly, it is all happening in an emergency scenario, so the time period has got shortened, and hence in the best possible manner the companies are trying to come up and try to provide the vaccine to the world. So whatever we hear, read, companies, I believe that first is coming out and then scaling up. I think somewhere mid of next year is what one should expect in terms of the vaccine to come out.
And one last question is, so what's the right way to invest in the pharma sector? Is it spending time to understand 3-4 companies and have a concentrated bet, or buy a basket investing through a mutual fund? What is your advice? Because I think that pharma is one sector which one should invest using a mutual fund, because you never know which stock you buy. It might underperform for some time, or it might get by something. So a basket approach always works, but I'll leave it to you to answer.
So definitely, I will say that mutual fund is a better way. We try to look at the companies from various angles, and plus there is an international angle to our fund as well. So that makes it more, I would say, a wider basket to approach. And not everyone probably has the technical ability to understand the nuance. Frankly, after studying the sector for 20 years, we may still fail. It is quite possible. Some things may be out of our thought process as well. So I would say that it's a technical sector. It's best, the investment is best done by sort of allocating money to a mutual fund, where you're spending a lot of time into analyzing these trends. So I would sort of say that the fund route would be a better option to look at.
Thank you so much, Vineet, for your time. It was very nice talking to you. And to conclude, as you rightly said, the pharma sector has come off bad times. So now it's time to invest, because earnings growth is catching up. Plus, sector valuations are also favorable, because instead of 80% premium to Sensex, we are roughly trading about 30 to 40% premium. The other sector which you like is IT, which is frank enough to share your views, and plus cyclical sectors like autos and cement. Thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful talking to you, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And I wish all your investors and all of you good health and great success in your investment journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.